months of work into this?
Yes, I did. I started in January of this year, and this work is about transition and what's going on in the world. So what happened was, you know what's going on in the world, right? If you don't, it's probably a good thing, you know, that's what I would say. But, you know, so much was going on that I felt like there was a lot of confusion and a lot of anger and a lot of frustrations and a lot of things like that. And I started thinking about it. You know, I thought, we're not that different from each other. We're all pretty much the same. We may have different thoughts, we may have different ideas, but we're all on this body and we're all on this earth and we're all moving through it together. So this was what that was about. And this ring right here symbolizes birth. So this is from birth to death, or as somebody told me, it could be from death to birth too. You can look at it either way. And you could go on the other side and look at it. But the idea is that these boats became bodies, and these bodies were us, and we are all similar in so many different ways. And yet we don't think we are a lot of times because of the way we think about things. And so with so much going on in the world, I started really looking at it and seeing that we're not any different. We all want to be happy. We all want to live a life that is filled with pleasure. And you know, that's going to change all the time, so that's not possible. We come into this life with nothing and we leave with nothing. And yet all the way we're going through it, we're trying to grab onto things or convince people about our thoughts. Even going to the place where we may just kill somebody because we don't like the way they're thinking. And that's a horrible way to be. And yet that's in our world. And yet that person may not be that different from who I could be if my mind was thinking that way too, because that person thinks that will make them happy, and inevitably it doesn't. So these boats were symbolic of bodies moving through in this way. They're all boat form, all vessel form, like we're a vessel and we're moving through this world. And so that's what I was treating these as. So you see they're all similar, but they're all a little different. No two boats are alike. There's words on the outside, and the words are in Tibetan, and it means compassion. It's from a Buddha, Avalokiteshvara, who's the Buddha of compassion. And the reason I put these words on here is because I thought, well, maybe you wouldn't know. If I just wrote compassion on there, you might not pay any attention to it, but maybe you would. But if you look at this, so many people have asked me, what does this mean? And I tell them it means compassion. Do you know what that means? And then they talk, the conversation starts. So I believe that in this world, compassion is not enough for our world to exist in the way that it does. That we have to have empathy connected with compassion and ask ourselves, how does the other person feel? What are they thinking and what are they like? And you know, if we could put ourselves in their shoes, maybe we could see their perspective in a different way. And then maybe we wouldn't have so many battles. There's a lot of maybes in the world. So the red threads are about the veins that run through us. We all have the same kind of thing that runs through us. It's all blood. And then some of these veins will connect with the person, the boat next to it. And maybe there's a communication that happens between those. But it was very much about moving from the beginning of our lives to the end of our lives, and knowing that in the end, what's left. So if you look through these, it's a real different feeling. If you can go down to the end of the boat down there and look through the ring, you can see just these lines, and that's kind of like how I see people, the masses of the people. There are these lines moving through everywhere we go, like the 405 freeway or in traffic or just walking down the street. And that, you know, they're all real peaceful, and a lot of people have told me how peaceful this installation feels, and that it really has movement. And, you know, for me that means a lot, because I'd like to see the world in a peaceful state like that, just all of us being able to move through. I don't know if it's possible. I know that life is life the way it is. The rice on the ground is part of the earth, the floor that we touch, and the streams go down to reach out to that. So that was what that's about. Every boat has different things, different places on the inside. So that's about the feelings on the inside of us, and maybe we're different. If you look inside, some of them, they're crusty, glazed, and then some of these are more like figures being played out in here. And the figures, when I was making this piece, the figures were about, I would listen to what was being said in the news, and then I'd hear something, and then I would just start drawing. And a lot of them, they're just figures. Some of them have little kids, some of them have words. But it's just what was going on in that day at that time. So it's like a little diary, but it's not, I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm just going with the brief book. Some of them are real pure. This is like a crusty white. some people are kind of tougher than others, and more, you know, but they're all different. And I love when they start to move, and I love the shadows because the shadows repeat not only on the floor, but on the wall, and that's how we are. You know, we just keep gathering more and more people. These boats over here are just like going through, and these all have the blue color on them. And they also all have, not all of them, but most of them have figures in them, so you can look at the figures a little closer. There's words written in there. If you want to read those, you can. But while this was being built, there was a lot of stuff with immigrants and people coming through and crossing borders, and I thought it was perfect at that time when I started drawing. This figure up here is part of it also. This figure is about one person. And yet we're one person, and yet we have so many imprints from our heritage about where we come from. Like in every woman, there's many women, you know, the mother, the grandmother, the great-grandmother, the aunt, all those women are within that. Same with the man and the father, and all those people are within that one figure. So when this started being created, it wasn't like that. But as it became more and more, my pieces start to talk to me. I don't know if that makes sense or you think I'm crazy when I say that, but they start to talk to me. And what happened was, it came out of the kiln, it just didn't feel right. So I took a pencil, and in ceramics you have a glazed pencil that you can write with, and I just started drawing, and these faces just started appearing. Some of them appeared before, some of them appeared after. And then there's a rabbit on the back, and the rabbit's about, you know, the birth, the semblance of like reproduction and that. And so that's on, and it's the only thing that's in color because that's the thing that's bringing everything alive in the beginning. And then on the other side, there's just more figures. And down here I have a little symbol that's my little stamp on my pieces a lot of the times. It's like a guardian. This figure also has a horn. It's from an animal because I figure that some of us also have that animal part in us. And so that's just part of what happens. She has a real pensive look, like she's kind of looking out. I think a lot of times that's what I feel like. I'm kind of like, really, what's going on? I don't know. Trying to figure it all out. And then behind her, I put these panels up of fiber. And within those fibers, I think, okay, so I would like you, if you could, to take one of the little pieces of paper over there and write one word that you think will make a difference in the world. Just one word. Roll it up and then put it in there. When that's done, when this show comes down today and tomorrow, what's going to happen is I'll take these apart. I'm going to make a book out of the pages that, out of the words that came out, put it together, bind it, and I'm going to give it back to Peggy. And when she has an auction for trying to raise money for the gallery, then that will go into the auction and she can gain all the money from that book. So that's pretty much my explanation of this. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those. Any questions? Yeah.